Blog Talk Radio.
Whoa. So this is Radioland, huh? The infinite eternal, the waves through the ether fuzz roll on forever. Roar!
This is Death by DVD, episode 79, Santa Sangre, a movie about limbless saints, suicide cults, a guy who thinks he's a bird, retarded people doing cocaine, and a guy who makes a puppet out of his mother. But it's still Jodorowsky's most, reasonable film. I'm your host, Alexander Nash, and with me, as always, is the man, the incomparable, the Hank.
The Hank. Yes, this week, my advocation is a very special, specific advocation for a certain man, our guest tonight, the greatest person to come out of the UK next to Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Philip Nutman.
I don't actually know how to respond to that.
Hopefully
at least you didn't say I was a butt fucker like Clive Barker.
Oh, no, not tonight. We'll see what happens after the show. Then maybe we'll see what your Clive Barker capabilities
are. I'm not really planning on fucking any butts or fucking anything after the show. I'm probably going to go to bed or go back to work. But actually being likened to Mr. Rubberface Atkinson, I suppose I'll take that as a compliment.
Excellent.
Next question, please.
Nash, what do you got? Let's introduce our guest without any more sodomy for the next 5 minutes.
Well, don't forget, I'm English and we are supposed to be butt fuckers and spankers, but that's never actually worked for me,
I'm slightly aroused. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
I'm totally in love with women, specifically one woman, and as much as I have wonderful gay friends, what they do in the bedroom, so long as it doesn't involve animals and children, I don't care.
I've been telling that for years, Nash. Animals and children, stop it.
Hey now. That hurts feelings.
Could you both behave?
Feelings. Oh, shit,
all right,
man.
Enough of the silly shit. I think as I tuned in, I did hear that you were actually playing You Only Live Twice. Thank you very much for that.
We have another special song for you that we're going to end the show with. So you've got your request, Phil.
Okay.
But to introduce the audience to you, everyone out there listening out in Radio Land, or, the losers that are listening to our show tonight.
You mean I actually have to introduce myself?
Well, I was going to leave it to Nash, but I think he's rather astounded with that.
No, I'm far too shy and humble. So why don't you guys talk shit about me for a moment while I can finish smoking my fag? And that doesn't mean that
I think the Rowan Atkinson did it well enough for me.
Okay,
I already called him Rowan Atkinson. You got to call him something now, Nash.
Let me light my fag and I'll get into it.
I'm already smoking a fag. Yeah, I really wish I was English because, whenever I say fag, it just seems to be hate speech.
It's just what? Sorry?
Hank, most of everything that comes out of your mouth, Hank, is hate speech. So.
Oh, fuck 'em.
Well, Philip Nutman he's been a writer in the genre, to use the term, for years and years now. He used to write for Fangoria. I believe he still writes for Fangoria from time to time.
No, I still write for Fangoria. Get it right, son. As of May of this year, I will have been writing for them for 29 fucking years. And I'm not actually that old. Well, I'm
That's
still
a lot of fucking years,
inside, but I started when I was 18, and I was their original and only true British correspondent. And yes, I'm still writing for the magazine, and I was on the verge of quitting, but then, this Canadian wanker by the name of Chris Alexander took over editorialship over the last year and brought the magazine back from the dead and gave me carte blanche to do whatever I want. Now keep going.
Ah, okay. Well, yeah,
on the fucking spot.
I mean, you could go to my website, www.philipnutman.com, and actually look up my bio and get your bloody facts right,
Phil, if we can leeway into something.
I'm just giving you shit because I'm actually in a good mood tonight, so...
If we can leeway into something real quick and run into it, you didn't only write for Fango, you wrote for Deep Red too, didn't you?
No, but I did know Chaz Ballon.
Well, fuck me, man. Where are my fucking facts tonight? Jesus Christ.
Obviously, somebody needs an assistant.
Yeah, seriously, if you know a good one, I really, truly need it.
Well, okay,
I'm a Southerner and I'm an American, so you have to give me credit.
I'll correct you as you continue to get things wrong, seemingly.
Well, at least if I have you to collect me, I feel a lot better. So that's all we need.
By the way, I wish that we actually had this on webcam because I am sitting here with a very big silly grin on my face, laughing at this. So thank you guys. Can I just say I'm very happy and honoured to be here on the show tonight. So thank you very much to my hosts with the most for having me.
Oh, you're very much welcome.
Well, I'm completely honored for an Englishman not to kick my ass. So, I mean, you're the first I've met that hasn't wanted to kill me yet.
I'm wearing very big leather-clad motorcycle boots which leave a very big imprint on the buttocks if I decide to drop kick you like a rugby ball. So you really
I was already aroused before the show.
Because I will actually break your fucking tailbone.
You're by far the best goddamn guest we've ever had on this fucking show.
Yeah, I feel
I'm sorry, what was that? I'm the biggest motherfucker you've ever had on the show?
Well, no, you are a motherfucker, but I was saying you're the best guest we've had on the motherfucking show, but, you take that, however you took it.
Well, I did tell you I was in a rather good mood this evening, so let's keep it going. Now let's come up with some fun shit.
Well, I know the first thing we really wanted to start off with is, Chaz Ballon was one thing we wanted to have mentioned at least on the program tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just guessing you might have a Chaz story or something.
Very beautiful man, a very tall, handsome old hippie who I had the pleasure of knowing thanks to my dear friend Steve Bizet way back when, and didn't get to see much of him over the last few years, but Chaz was a truly beautiful soul. He was a very gentle, wonderful, loving person, and one of the finest writers about 70s, 80s horror cinema that I think I've ever come across. Anybody who could be the poet laureate of splatter cinema deserves my undying respect, and I miss him really, really very much, and I'm very sorry that I didn't get to spend time with him in the last few years of his life. He was a beautiful soul. How's that for a eulogy? That
was wonderful. And we wish you could have partaken in the memorial we threw for Chaz a couple weeks ago. But that makes up for it.
You didn't fucking ask, did you? So I'm sorry.
We heard you were asked from what we knew from Bissett. Well, fucking put me on the spot again. God damn it. Damn.
Yeah.
I fucking quit. I'm done. I'm going home.
Will you two shut the fuck up? Shut up. When I make my point, Chaz Ballon, honestly, was a very, very beautiful, gracious soul. He was an incredibly erudite commentarian on an area of cinema which he legitimized beyond, Ed Naha and Uncle Bob Martin opening up the Golden Gates of Fangoria back in the late 70s. Chaz took the Fangoria aesthetic to a whole nother level. You know, he was, and I don't know whether Tim Lucas would probably like me for making this parallel, but it is meant as a compliment. Chaz was a very erudite and intelligent and incredibly well-read person who perceived the true nature of what we call splatter cinema and took it to a whole other level in terms of his writing. He was a very fine writer, he was a fabulous artist, and a very, very beautiful, sweet soul and very kind, gracious man who, on the, 4 or 5 times that I had the pleasure of hanging out with him, he was beautiful. He was solid gold. Well, that shut you two up, didn't it?
Yes, that's officially did the job.
All right, you two can hang on a second, because the reason I was a bit late calling in was I actually really need to go take a piss. So you two can talk shit about me while I can go piss in my bathroom. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, with that on the line, yeah.
I guess
Mr. Nutman is urinating.
Taking a piss. I've never felt more like that guy who was interviewing Johnny Lydon on the talk show.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's the English, and it's a glorious thing. We're very multiracial now on the show that we have the Anglo-Saxons partaking in an episode.
This is like a fucking dream come true, man. This is.
Well, for everyone listening right now, while Phil is urinating and enjoying his cigarette, we actually have a show for you tonight. We're going to be doing a big ramble of different things that have been made aware to us that Phil likes. So if you don't like Peck and Paw, if you don't like Peck and Paw, you're a fucking faggot regardless. So we're just going to leave it at that, because that's what we're going to get into a lot of tonight. Some Anthony Burgess,
and probably
a lot of great people.
Probably some wrong facts. I'm going to say probably a few wrong facts.
There's going to be a couple of wrong facts coming along the line, but while you listen, you're going to hear them be called out.
Much better. Getting some feedback and some static. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming up fine now.
Okay, good. Sorry. I'm on the call list because I'm smoking another fag. But I'm throwing another homosexual on the fire in my backyard. Well, I am part Viking, so I do have this thing about bonfires, and I'm also from England, and don't forget, on November 5th, we do actually like to burn the effigy of that Catholic scumbag who tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament. I'm going through the Rolodex in my brain. It's just not coming up.
Yeah, letting you run with that one, Nash.
Not that I'm political, but, I just threw that out as a thing. But, Alan Moore did come up with a thing called V for Vendetta, which most people don't understand is actually based off of the whole thing of Guy Fawkes.
Yeah, Guy Fawkes. Well, I read V for Vendetta, and I took it as, the character in V for Vendetta was given some drugs, and basically it opened his third eye, and that's what it seems like to me, anyway. And he became this Guy Fawkes character.
Well, so yes, exactly. Yes. But, I mean, it wouldn't exist were it not for the fact that we had revolutionaries in England before, George W. Bush decided, oh, look, we've got this thing called terrorism. We have this thing called 9/11, so let's impose all kinds of political issues on America and turn everybody terrified into foreigners. Well,
I mean, coming now, plenty of people can consider Guy Fawkes to be a terrorist for his actions to the Catholic Church, what he did, but before, as you said, before the 9/11 incident, it was vigilante justice, which can be taken either way. Some people disagree with Guy Fawkes. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the UK that are not Catholics. That's pretty well known. But that's a pretty decent stapled point coming out on V for Vendetta. That I've seen the film, I've never read the novel, but I do know who Guy Fawkes is, and looking at him and then looking at the translation to the film, it's completely and utterly different from what actually happened.
Alan took it as a complete, departure point for his commentary on basically the Margaret Thatcher regime, which destroyed most of my generation in England. And we could get into a very long philosophical debate about this, discussion rather, not a debate, because I don't think we're arguing the same point here, but I just threw that out as a quickie, so,
So, Sam Peckinpah.
Yeah.
Yes.
On a side note, yes, there's plenty of things I know you wanted to talk about. I know Peckinpah's a big one. Guy Fawkes is definitely a big thing we should do on another show. That could be a whole 90 minutes, and most probably would be a decent, joyous debate between the three of us. But
actually, this works as a perfect segue into talking about Peckinpah, because Peckinpah was a true anarchist in the true sense of the word. And people say anarchy, they think, disorder, chaos, what have you. No, true rebel. Think about the original American flag. You know what I'm talking about? The snake, don't tread on me?
Yeah.
Don't tread on me. The Culpeper Coalition.
Mm-hmm. So the bottom line is, and I'm not dissing Catholics or anything when I brought up the subject of Guy Fawkes, but there was a ferment, a political revolution, which was completely justified, as far as I'm concerned, because there was incredible oppression. And if there's one thing that I hate in this world more than anything is oppression. And we should all be free, and we should be like the original American flag. Don't tread on me. One of the things people say to me, Phil, my English friends say, Phil, why have you lived in America for 20 years? And I say, because I had to get away from Britain, because the Constitution in this country is something we don't have in Britain. And what saddens me is the fact that people are turning, certain people who shall remain nameless, are turning, I don't want to turn this into a political debate, are turning this country into a country of hate. This is a great country. I felt very honoured and very privileged to live here for the last 20 years. This country has been very kind to me.
We're glad you've enjoyed your stay. I mean,
that said, I am actually...
It's actually something that I'm not sure how to comment back fully onto you with. That's a very beautiful statement to have been made, especially on our program.
No, understand this. I love this country. I love the principles that this country was founded upon. Because after all, it was founded by a bunch of pissed-off Brits. Friends of mine say to me, Phil, how do you celebrate 4th of July? And I say, like every other American. And if it wasn't for you lot, I would not celebrate what I've done for the last 20 years.
Well, that does actually lead to a really, as you said, a terrific segue to Peckinpah. Even bringing up anarchy and Guy Fawkes, that furthers to the point that, Sam Peckinpah was an honest-to-God rebel.
Yes, he was.
And you can take the subject of anarchy to the point to someone that doesn't care about anything. Which, not going into nihilism, but the pure fact that he cared about, making his films and being himself, but other than that, he had no regard for anything else. So, in the freest sense of the definition of anarchism, Sam Peckinpah was a total, utter free spirit.
Yes, he was. And that's what I was bringing up the point, and I thought it was the perfect segue to talk about anarchism in its true sense of the word. And as a writer, I'm very annoyed with the way that the misuse of language in both the British and American societies. For example, the way that everybody misuses the word apocalypse. apocalypse in its true meaning from the Greek is revelation. It doesn't mean Armageddon. That's the destruction of the city of Pedigo in the Bible. Apocalypse means revelation. And Sam Peckinpah, as a true cinematic visionary, his vision, when he wasn't sadly drunk and fucked up towards the end of his life, because he was a heavy drinker, we all know that, which unfortunately diluted a lot of his vision, and I can understand that.
Convoy.
Been that, done there, or rather, been there, done that, is the fact that he was a true spirit. He was one of the last great true American heroes of American cinema.
Well, not only, not to leave out just cinema, looking at his family and the history where he comes from a line of actually real American heroes, just cattle ranchers, American judges, a lot of the people that helped calm and make the frontier what it is today. That he came from a very legit, very promising family. But I don't know the name of the film, but there was something he was a production assistant or working on that was filmed at Folsom Prison. And they were not allowing the motion picture to be made until the foreman at Folsom Prison realized that one of the people involved was a Peckinpah and asked to meet him. And once he learned who he was, he went ahead and let them make the movie just because he knew the Peckinpah family growing up. He knew their name. He knew who they were. And so he not only, that's just taking aside the fact of what he did, the movies he made, and the glory of the films he made, things that to this day people still are ripping off and trying to make similar to him, but he comes from a line of very important people. That
yes, indeed.
His family's name, I'm probably wrong, I believe they were Dutch and English and Scottish. The mixture coming over, they were true Americans. That's what really defines what an American is just a mixture of random races that came together and did something important here. So he comes from that strong line of Americanism, I guess you can call it.
Yes, there was pure frontier spirit, and yes, he did come from a great lineage, and whether or not you want to get into the argument about manifest destiny and the colonization of the West, what you can't extricate from the history of America is the fact that true pioneer spirit, that true grit, yes, I'm plugging the Coen brothers, is the...
Can we instead of plugging the Coen brothers, just maybe plug John Wayne?
Excuse me?
Instead of plugging the Coen brothers, could we just possibly plug John Wayne?
Well, yes, Mr. Marion Morrison was another American hero. And what we have to remember is that the Western is actually an indigenous genre, a form of storytelling that grew specifically out of the origins of this country, this great country. And one of the misconceptions a lot of people have about me is they think, oh, Phil, he wrote Wetwork, that zombie novel, he's the zombie guy. Oh, Phil Nutman, he's written for Fangoria for 29 years, he's a horror guy. My first true love is the Western, both as a cinematic medium and also in print form.
Well, and that's one thing where my utter love and respect for you comes from. See, Nash is not going to be happy with this, as, he's not the biggest Western fan. But, it's I think possibly next to horror and working in horror and the horror business is Westerns. It's a pure art, it's the first pure American art cinematic form.
Yes, there's actually a quote from Harlan Ellison, which, give me a moment, let me see if I can remember. Harlan said several years ago, many years ago, comic books, jazz, I'm paraphrasing very badly here, and if Harlan was on the phone, he'd probably give me shit. there are certain indigenous forms of storytelling that have grown directly out of American history and culture, and I think those are the things that are getting forgotten as we move into the 21st century. You know, to be perfectly honest, I couldn't give a rat's arse about the latest installment of Saw. I hate those fucking movies.
You're in the right crowd of people. There's been plenty of shows that we've spoken poorly of Saw. You know, films like Inception, Shutter Island, that, you know, we it's been said hundreds of times on this program, they weren't good. And it's a fully beautiful agreement with you that was our storytelling. That's what we had in this country. Is we had the cowboys, we had the frontier, and it's gone now. And there's been a few coming out, off of names. Seraphim Falls was a recent one I saw, but they're not the glory. It's not Howard Hawks anymore. It's not John Ford. It's not Houston. It's not the people that actually told the story. One thing that has to be looked at is, even like I don't know much about a lot of these guys' personal lives, but looking at the ages and the years these people were born, like John Wayne. Well, his dad must have been born in the 19th century. Houston, Ford, all of their fathers. You know, a lot of these guys told these stories for the possibility that their fathers were frontiersmen, or at least riders, or did something along the lines, or experienced the life that was lived.
Yes, well, this is what we have to understand, and nothing depresses me more when I give a screenwriting lecture, because I have been teaching for the last couple of years. I had a particular class at a university that shall remain nameless, and it was a bunch of early 20-somethings, and I was absolutely depressed beyond belief when I discovered that none of them, A, watched Westerns, and B, more importantly, had never watched a silent movie and didn't know who D.W. Griffith was. And
I'd like to interrupt you just for a brief moment. As you know how old I am, and you know how old Nash is, that we discussed this before the show.
Yeah,
and hearing you say something like that, like, it breaks my heart. That's so sad that I'm fairly young to be in this game and to what we're doing.
Yes, well,
and when you mention someone like D.W. Griffith,
part of the reason I'm on this show is because I'm actually talking to intelligent, erudite people, and you guys are in your 20s, right?
I'm in my 20s, and Nash is a little bit older. we don't like to give out our actual ages, and I don't want to make Nash feel old. But we are, you know, I'm in my 20s. We'll say that the least.
Right,
but that's an utter appreciation from your part to have you say something like that to us. That's wonderful.
Well, the bottom line is, and credit where credit's due, you guys actually give me hope for the future, because you're probably young enough to be my sons at this point. I'm not that old, but to actually be able to have a level of discourse with people who are young enough to be my children, and or almost young enough to be my children, is very gratifying, because the point I was going to make is, when I gave a lecture 3 years ago, I might as well mention it. It was a film class at Emory University here in Atlanta. It was utterly depressing, because these were supposed to be the creme de la creme of the university film school, who had never ever watched a silent film, let alone watched a Western, and they thought that old movies were movies from 1981.
No, that's not old.
At least the film classes I've ever sat in, I mean, we sat down, and a lot of students' disagreements, or their grievances, we had to watch things like Modern Times with Charlie Chaplin. We watched Battleship Potemkin, and you understand why those things are so important to the future of cinema and what was important about them then. Things like Metropolis. It just, I mean, each one was a different piece of how filmmaking is today.
Okay, where was this? Where did you go to school?
I went to Southern Illinois University for a brief period.
Well, I'm very deeply relieved to hear you say that because, quite frankly, I've been absolutely appalled by a lot of the so-called students I've come across, and more importantly, the so-called faculty that teach, which brings to mind one of my main dictums, Nutman's dictum number 1: those who can do, those who can't teach, and those who can't teach criticize. I had to completely rethink this 3 years ago when I was asked to teach screenwriting, and I'm like, what, me teach? Oh, fuck off. And then it was like, you know what, actually, I'm justified in teaching because I've had the experience. I've made.
Just to say, I think someone like you would be justified in teaching because you're not a cunt. You know what you're talking about. You're not a cunt. That's the only word I could fathom to use in a situation like that.
Well, thank you. You know, actually, I think you're the first person who's actually called me a cunt. I take that.
I would say Philip Nutman's not a cunt.
And the fact that you said I'm not a cunt is actually rather nice. And this is now starting to turn into like Sir Ben Kingsley having a rant in Sexy Beast.
It makes me very happy that you bring up Sexy Beast. Just I watched that film for the first time about 2 weeks ago, and it astounded me.
It's an amazing
movie. Really, I loved it so much. I enjoyed watching that. And I like that it brought up.
No, Sexy Beast is actually amazing. And I'm blanking on the. I'm having a senile moment for a moment. Jonathan, remind me, guys. What's the name of the director?
Oh, Lord.
Well,
that's on you, Nash. I got a fucking clue.
Of course, he completely blew it and went off and made that Nicole Kidman movie in which she's having sex with her son. And it's like, what a load of bollocks.
Oh, fuck. God damn, that God, you bring up that movie, that was a fucking, that had Cameron Bright or something in it. That movie was atrocious.
Yes,
but
I know.
Just before we leave the full subject,
I couldn't believe that it was made by the same director. So this brings me back to my point about the fact that I think writers, actually I hadn't made this point before, but I'm going to make this point, that, you know, a good director is only as good as the material that he has to work with. And this brings us back to Sam Peckinpah. I've read all the early drafts of The Wild Bunch, which is one of my favourite movies of all time, and Wallen Green's original script is like 260 pages of single-typed material that just literally has pages and pages and pages of description, which under the current Hollywood thinking, and if you go with the whole Sid Field school of screenwriting, which is something that I disagree with, which was another reason why I agreed to start teaching, because it's like, well, I better start teaching people how to write properly. Quite frankly, it's amazing. It's amazing stuff. And, okay, so, you know, Sam took it, he reworked it, they worked together, other people were involved. The great thing I love about working in film is that you get to collaborate with some incredible talents if you find the right people to work with. When I write my fiction, my prose fiction, it's a very solitary task. It's basically you, the person, the writer, basically bashing your head against your laptop or your computer or your keyboard or your manual typewriter, as it used to be for me back before the invention of the computer, because that's how old I am.
That's what I use.
And it's a very solitary, lonely process. But when you have the opportunity to work with the right-minded people, notice I said right-minded, not like-minded, because if you're all thinking on the same wavelength, then that's not always a good thing. that's when the real magic happens. And, you know, I never wanted to become a producer, but I ended up having to become my own producer because I actually couldn't find, some arsehole that was as fucking honest or as talented as me to actually produce me. Because everybody else I've worked with had either ripped me off or was incompetent. So I had to step up to the plate, and I've had to go through a massive learning curve, and it's like, okay, now I have to wear another bloody hat. And on that note, there are several people that I want to give a shout-out to tonight, especially the Collective Studios guys in Michigan, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, especially Ryan Lesky, Rick Reed, Dan Felicki, Stephen Gray, a.k.a. Stephen G., who brings to life my favourite skeleton author, J.D. Strickland, who is in the movie Clean Break. Then on the home front here in Atlanta, I have the pleasure and privilege at this point, after nearly 4 years of talking about it, to work with an incredibly talented and wonderful writer-director by the name of Brett Wood, who has written some pieces for Video Watchdog in the past, has worked extensively with Kino on film, and is I think is their chief archivist, and has made some pretty unique films. He's one of the best filmmakers, I think, working in America right now, and I'm very honoured that Brett came to me a few months ago and said, would you consider producing my next film for me? And Brett is an amazing guy, and he's an incredibly talented writer, and you guys haven't seen his last movie, which he just finished, called The Little Death, which builds upon the Victorian erotica and psychopathia of Sexualis, his previous movie. I'm babbling here because I'm actually stumbling over my words. But anyway, there are a bunch of people I'm working with, and in England, multiple award-winning filmmaker Ashley Thorpe, who I think is actually the most brilliant filmmaker working in Britain today, who I'm very honoured and happy to call, quite humbled actually, to call a good friend. And then we've got down in Brazil an amazing talent by the name of Andre Payne. All of these guys, fortunately, I was able to bring together for the Buried Alive Film Festival here in Atlanta at the Plaza Theatre back in November. And there was nothing more gratifying than seeing a group of filmmakers from different parts of the world all come together and bond. And now we're all doing some stuff together and building towards the next festival, which will be in November of this year. And if all goes to plan, we will have David Cronenberg in Atlanta, and we will be giving him his first ever Lifetime Achievement Award. And that's an exclusive, guys. Nobody knows about this.
That's great. David Cronenberg is probably my favorite filmmaker of all time, and I think it's way past due that he got some recognition for being the amazing artist that he actually is.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I obviously agree wholeheartedly, and I want to give a big shout-out to Luke Godfrey, the founder of the Buried Alive Film Festival, and Blake Myers, the president of the festival. I was asked to be a guest juror a couple of years ago. Had such a great time. I said, if you guys need any help with anything in the future, just let me know. Well, last summer, Blake and I ran into each other. We got talking, and I said, how's the festival going? He's like, well, a bit slowly. I said, can I help? So I came on board as special guest celebrity, quote-unquote, programmer, and then Blake floored me as I was about to introduce Ashley Thorpe, and this was actually Ashley's first appearance at an American festival back in February, and Blake then said, and this comes from our head of programming, Philip Nutman. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, you're head of programming now. You deserve it, and we need you. I'm so happy to be working with Luke and Blake. And on that note, this gives me an opportunity to say a shout-out to the other amazing people in the Atlanta talent pool that are here. Because this has been a running joke with friends, not just in the UK, but also all over America. And they're like, Phil, why are you living in the city of Gone with the Wind? Well, the answer is the wind may blow, but we've got an amazing talent pool here. We've got incredible people like Shane Morton, who founded the Silver Scream Spook Show at the Plaza Theatre, which is Atlanta's most continuous running theatre since 1939. It opened in December of 1939. The first movie they screened there was George Cukor's The Women with Betty Davis. And it's still going strong, 72 years later. And right now that is credit where credit's due, thanks to Jonathan Ray and his wife, Gail Thrower Ray. The Spook Show wouldn't have a home there. Shane Norton wouldn't have the team were it not for the invaluable contributions of John Waterhouse, Nick Morgan, and the fabulous people, lovely ladies of Blastoff Burlesque, who won numerous awards for being amazing. So there's an incredible talent pool here in Atlanta, and quite frankly, in all my years of living in different cities, London, Paris, Rome, I've never come across one city where there is so much talent fermenting. And, for all of Atlanta's pretensions about being an international city, which in many respects it is sort of becoming, but it isn't, really. It's still got a kind of parochial feel about it, which is one of the things I like. There's just an amazing talent pool here, and I can't even remember what the original point of the conversation was, but I just have to say that because I really do want to give a shout-out to all these people because they're amazing, and it's very gratifying when I get up every day to know that they're all out there and I can just pick up the phone or we'll go and have a meeting and we'll go do stuff. But, it's kind of difficult to make an Englishman blush, but when Brett Wood asked me if I would actually produce his next film, which I can't talk about right now, I was very, very, very humbled. When Ashley Thorpe asked me to become producer on his next venture, which started out as a short and is going to be his first feature. Again, I'm not going to go into details right now. And the same with, working with Ryan and Rick and Andre down in Brazil. It's like, oh, my God, every day I get up, I feel truly blessed right now. And I'll shut up, and you guys can ask me an annoying question. Actually, can we take some callers? Have we got anybody calling in?
Oh, we can. We've got to check. Nash, can you see the call-in screen?
Yeah, I see one call that we could possibly take.
Well, let's
All
take
right.
it.
I'm getting to it, my man. All
we'll
right,
get to it fucking faster.
No, I just got an email from Ryan Lesky, and we got a call coming in from Grand Rapids, trying to get through, trying to get on.
Yeah, we got a 913 area code on the air right now. 913 area code.
Sorry, what?
Well, he just hung up. It was a 913 area code that had called in, and he hung up on
the
it.
last caller,
I'm not
come
recognizing
for
913, but anyway, all right, let's see. Have we got anybody else?
Nobody else currently called in, because we usually don't take calls, so the fans aren't calling in, but if you guys want to call in, try.
If you got something to say to Phil, go ahead and call in.
Yes,
try that over for now. I actually do have a question, or not so much a question, but Phil, you've been bringing up famous Brits and purist writers and people who write from the heart. And something you've mentioned to me that I know you truly care about is Anthony Burgess, who I consider a true purist British writer.
Yes. Do you want me to go off on another monologue?
Well,
Feel free,
we're waiting
man.
for somebody to call in. So I'm just, I know it's someone you care about and that you truly enjoy. And to me, Anthony Burgess is someone that's completely and totally underappreciated in the United States. That next to, Stanley Kubrick's film, based on his writing, there's not a lot of coverage or a lot of people that understand or have read his writing or know about what he did in life.
Well, sadly, the fact is that, yes, Burgess is, if anybody pays attention to the credits, Burgess is only really identified, and it's not just an American case. I mean, I'm sure if you stopped half a dozen people coming out of Foyle's, the biggest bookstore in the Great Britain in London, in Charing Cross Road, and asked them who was Anthony Burgess, they might say, oh, that's the guy who wrote A Clockwork Orange. Well, he did way, way, way so much more than that. And for my money, and it seems to be a novel that has been largely ignored and forgotten over the last 30 years, I think it's perhaps the greatest novel that was written in the latter half of the 20th century in England is his book Earthly Powers, which is this huge, 1,500-page, 1,200-page novel that basically covers the entire history of the 20th century up until the late 1970s. And it's told from the point of view of two brothers, one of whom is a homosexual writer and the other one is a priest. And this book is something that should be read in college classes and should be studied. It is a phenomenal piece of work, and I put a little homage to it in Cities of Night, my short story collection that came out last year. The wraparound sequence, the bookends to the collection of a distillation of 25 years of my short fiction, is called Unearthly Powers. And the opening of the first section is very, very specifically and deliberately a homage to Burgess's writing. And for the first time in over 10 years, I went back and started reading my copy and realized that, oh my God, the cadence of my language, the way I use words, it all comes from Burgess. And I never realized that before.
You could have worse people to have the same writing tendencies of. I mean, it's not like you write like Stephen King, for God's sakes. But
I'm sorry, repeat that. What did you say? I'm like Stephen King?
not like Stephen King.
Okay, good. I was being... Remember, I'm English.
Not like
you
Stephen
actually
King.
have the copyright on sarcasm and irony. Oscar Wilde may have said that sarcasm is the lowest form of wit. But you know what? I'm perfectly happy to get down on my knees and make a bad joke.
Well, bad joke is what Death by DVD is about. But, you know, with Anthony Burgess, the man has over 20 novels done, and personally next to A Clockwork Orange, which is the most popular out of his work, and is sold, you know, specifically because of Stanley Kubrick, his trilogy that he wrote. Well, you know, I can't recall where he was living when he wrote the trilogy.
Oh, you mean the movie books?
Yes. It's an utterly wonderful drama that he's outlined of what the world outside of whatever you live in America really is like.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing that people don't realize about Anthony Burgess is that he was a composer and a musician. I mean, the guy was an incredible multi-talent who is quite frankly I've only really scratched the surface of his work, and in fact,
he was also a wonderfully talented linguist.
I could spend the rest of my life reading his works because he is truly, I think, the great unsung hero of British literary fiction.
Well, he was a Renaissance man. I mean, he not only was he an extremely talented fiction writer, he was a beautiful musician and composed wonderful music, but he was an epic linguist. I mean, just even looking and taking Clockwork Orange, the fictional language for the Droogs he created, so much he did that he could read and write and speak, 7 different languages? The man himself was more talented than most people are to this day. He was truly a beautifully talented man.
I'm completely in awe of that man's talent, and if I could have one shred of his talent, well, actually, I can't actually think of what to say. The man was a fucking genius, basically, and the fact that he has seemingly become forgotten by most people in this world, and his name is only really acknowledged because of A Clockwork Orange, which is a great movie and it's a great book, but there is so much more. He's like the iceberg that sank the Titanic. You could only ever see the first 9% of it.
I mean, even Burgess himself thought that A Clockwork Orange is one of his lowest points of writing. That it's sad to say that the movie's terrific. It's a great Malcolm McDowell film. Stanley Kubrick did great. If that film had never been made, there's a good possibility that Burgess might have had a bigger fame as a writer. His career as a linguist or a composer might have come to shine a bit more if the film hadn't have ever existed.
Okay, that's an interesting, arguable point, which I don't think that we can get into right now because actually I don't have the ammunition to come back with you on that one. For once, I'm actually gobsmacked and I can't fucking say anything. But let's talk. This is the perfect segue to get into the greatest influence in my life, whom Cities of Night is dedicated to. Well, it's dedicated to 2 people. To the late, great director, stage and film director, Lindsay Anderson, and the movie that actually changed my life, and Clockwork Orange as a movie wouldn't exist without it, is If, which won the Palme d'Or at Cannes in 1969, and Lindsay Anderson has had more of an impact on my life than anybody else. Everybody goes, oh, Phil, zombie guy, wet work, oh, George Romero, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, actually, you don't have a fucking clue, do you?
Well, you bring up If, and If is it's almost saddening to watch and see that movie, just because you see Malcolm McDowell at such a high point, such a beautiful actor at that point, and then you look at him now, and it really utterly depresses me that, I'll go ahead and say, as I've said before, I don't like Rob Zombie, and when I see someone like Malcolm McDowell in a Rob Zombie film, it breaks my heart to have seen that he's possibly, out of the 20th and 21st century, he's got so much fucking potential. He's one of the best goddamn actors to ever exist. If, Caligula, I can't recall the name of the film, but where he played the coffee salesman. He did so much. Even Cat People was utterly fucking amazing.
Time.
Yeah, at least I knew what it was, but it's just very shocking and sad to see Malcolm McDowell.
I'm glad you say that because I've had the pleasure of getting to know Malcolm a little bit over the last couple of years because we were guests at a convention together in Florida 3 years ago, and Malcolm was giving an incredible public performance doing an interview, and I could tell he was getting really pissed off because all these teenage 20-something fanboys and girls are just asking him about, the crap horror movies he's done. And I'll explain in a second why. Well, actually, I'll explain now. Malcolm has expressed to me the reason he takes on and let's be honest, and he's the first one to be honest, and Michael Caine, so Michael Caine is the same way, and so is Sean Connery. They've all taken on rubbish jobs, not to pay the bills because they're all wealthy enough, but because they, A, first and foremost love to act, and B, the money they get from those projects gives them the opportunity to do the other stuff that they love. One of the things that Malcolm told me when we sat down and had a cup of tea and we had a private chat was that he admitted that, you know, what he loves more than anything is to do radio drama. However, unfortunately, the BBC pay shit wages to do radio drama, and he said, I can't pay my mortgage and I can't pay my alimony if I'm just doing radio drama. Hang on a second. Sorry, I'm getting over a really nasty cough. Anyway, so Malcolm, because I called Malcolm on the carpet and said, can you explain to me why you've done so many shit movies? And he said, well, because it actually finances the other stuff that I love to do, like doing theatre, which doesn't pay very well, and doing radio drama, and I especially love to do radio drama. And in fact, I'll make an exclusive announcement here. Not going to go into details, but I'm about to contact Malcolm and his agent about having him involved with a very special project in England. And if the filmmaker in England is still up at nearly 5 o'clock in the morning listening to this live, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I mean, you could say the same thing about Terence Stamp, who was, you know, came up before Malcolm did in the 60s and is, you know, still an incredibly handsome, amazingly talented man who, you know, with the exception of the Limey, has basically been wasted. Now, he doesn't work as much, Terence doesn't work as much as Malcolm does, but, you know, there was an incredible generation of film actors that came to prominence in the 1960s in Great Britain who have sadly almost become jokes at this point because they've done so many bad movies. You know, what was it? Scott Fitzgerald wrote that there are no second acts in American lives. Well, you know, the case in point to break the rule is Sir Michael Caine. Michael Caine thought he was completely washed up by the late 70s, early 80s. That's why he was doing Jaws Part 27 and every other piece of shit you can think of. Now look at where Michael Caine is now, you know. Yes, it was actually, I don't particularly like Christopher Nolan as a director. I think he's vastly overrated.
Phil, may I interrupt you for a moment?
Sorry, what?
May I interrupt you for a moment? We apparently have several callers waiting in queue right now.
He has what, sorry?
I know you wanted to look at callers and talk to some people. So, Nash, that's you.
Yeah. I got a 616 area code.
Oh, that must be Collective Studios. Take it.
Hey, 616 area code. You're on the air.
Hey, is this Phil and Blog Talk Radio?
That would be it.
Hey, this is Ryan Liskey calling to ask Phil Nutman a question.
All right, come on, annoy me, son. Annoy me. Come on.
Well, I don't want to annoy you, but you were just talking about Malcolm McDowell, and I heard a rumor once that you and him exchanged a kiss.
Well, no, actually, it's not a rumor. The fact is that when I said farewell to Malcolm, he hugged me and kissed me on both cheeks.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about my arse. I'm talking about my face. And
there was no romantic kiss going on?
No, it wasn't a love affair. Well, it was a love affair over Lindsay Anderson, which will bring me back to the anecdote I started a while ago. I do indulge in Chaucerian circumlocutio. and that's not some kind of weird sexual habit. Look it up in the dictionary if you don't know what I'm talking about. Yes, I have been hugged and kissed on both cheeks by Malcolm McDowell. And as I said to my wife at the time, I said, wow, Malcolm hugged me and kissed me. And she's like, oh, I'm really envious. You've been kissed by Alex Delage. And then another friend overheard and said, no, you've been kissed by Caligula. I said, no, I've probably been kissed by both.
Very nice.
But does that answer your question, Ryan?
Yeah. I actually knew the answer, but I wanted to make you share that with the listeners.
Okay, well, good.
Well, thank you, Ryan.
I'm glad to hear there's somebody out there in internet radio land who's actually paying attention to my waffle tonight.
Well, yeah, I love listening to you talk, so I figured, why not?
But yeah, anyway, but coming back to the point was that when Malcolm was doing this interview, this public interview at this convention, this is how we bonded. He was getting pissed off coming back to the whole, Rob Zombie is full of shit thing. And having nearly died trying to get back to the set of Halloween 2 thanks to the shit-ass publicist who fucked me up on that movie for Fangoria. That's a whole other story we're not even going to go into. Although Malcolm and I did have tea that afternoon, but that's neither here nor there, is the fact that he, I could tell he was getting completely frustrated and irritated by all these fucking stupid questions coming from all these, brain-dead horror movie fans going, yeah, Halloween rocks! You Dr. Loomis! It's like, and I'm sitting there going, excuse me, what about Donald Pleasance? And, these kids hadn't even seen the original Carpenter version, which is, a great movie. And then so I finally, after about 20 minutes, piped up from the back of the room and bellowed out, Mr. McDowell, as a fellow Englishman, and Malcolm goes, oh, my God, a bloody Englishman. You're not going to call me darling, are you? I said, no. Can I ask you about Lindsay Anderson? And then he lit up like a balloon, and he just levitated off the stage. And I said, I really want to ask you about what it was like working with Lindsay on If and No Lucky Man. And then Malcolm went into a 20-minute monologue, rather. So that's when I walked up to him, and he was charging $75 or whatever his convention agent was charging for autographs. I brought up my copies of If and No Lucky Man screenplays, and he signed them for free. And then we had tea the following day. So there you go. See, this is what it's like to be Phil Nutman, because you don't have to spend $150 on getting Malcolm McDowell to sign your books for you. And that makes me sound like a completely smug arsehole, doesn't it? Ryan, are you still
I would
there?
like to be kissed on the cheek by Malcolm McDowell. That's something I would like to experience in my life.
Well,
I'm sure it is, you Nancy.
Well, I mean, if Barbara Bach, if Major Amasova from The Spy Who Loved Me would come up and rub her tits against me, I think I could die there on the spot and be happy.
Phil, to let you know, I've just gotten a note. We have a person in the chat room tonight who's a listener from Brazil, so that definitely must be your friend calling in. I don't know if they're calling in. I know we have several other callers on the switchboard tonight, but we do have your friend from Brazil who is in the chat listening.
Okay, all right. This is from Andre.
Do we have a very long area code? I'm not sure the person's name in the chat. All we know is that they're from Brazil.
Okay.
And
I
you
got
mentioned
that
that several
913
times,
area code,
Do
or
they have
931.
a question? Do they have a question?
We'll
as
see
far as
about
I know,
931.
if they have a question, please put it in the chat, and I will be made aware of what the question is. Yeah, okay, yes, we do have Andre in the chat right now.
Right,
Andre, if
what's the
you have a question or if you can call in, go ahead. We don't know if we have a question. We know it's Andre in the chat, though, so thought you'd like to know that.
All right. Well, hey, Andre, if you're listening in, hey, man, the script is great. We've got to do some work on it this weekend. I'll be in touch with you by Sunday. And I'm so happy, and thank you very much for the Facebook post today.
Nash, do we have any other callers on the line right now that want to get in?
We still got that 931 area code. I'm gonna let them on the air.
Try that. Go for it. Let's see what we got.
931, you're on the air.
Welcome to Death by DVD.
Well, I've been here before, but, I really don't have anything to ask, honey. I was just here to listen, so how y'all doing tonight? Might as well ask.
Well, I'm doing pretty damn fine. Are we boring you to tears, or are you having fun?
No, I'm having quite fun. I got Kentucky Deluxe on my side tonight, but like I said, I was just listening. Used to listen a lot, but, like I said, I don't really have any questions for you, I really appreciate you putting me on, though.
Oh, come on. Now you're on live.
All right.
Now you're on live. You've got to... What's your name, dear?
Oh, she hung up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, how about that?
Then.
Well, thank you, caller, for wasting our time. Listen next week, live. You fucking asshole.
Pull another one up. Come on, if we got other people lining up.
You got anybody else, or...?
I think I still have Chris still around here somewhere. Possibly. Chris, is that you?
Caller?
Hello, 616.
Hello?
All
right. Well, all right, last two callers. Thank you for wasting Mr. Nutman's time.
Is everybody hanging up on us? Are we that boring?
Apparently so. Apparently the last two callers were just listening into their phones. So, thanks to the last two callers for wasting Phil's time. Awesome. Good job, guys.
Thank you. We appreciate it. It's probably the glitchy-ass equipment on this server. It doesn't seem to want to work very often. But I got a question, Phil. How was your involvement with writing the screenplay for The Girl Next Door film for Jack Ketchum?
Sorry, I heard a little bit of that. Could you back up? What was my what? Sorry?
Your experience writing the screenplay for the Jack Ketchum novel, Girl Next Door.
To be perfectly honest, extremely painful. Because I'd already read the novel. I'd read the novel once for pleasure, if you can call reading that book for pleasure.
I don't think anyone can, but...
Not particularly.
And then basically what happened was that my dear old Hollywood screenwriting friend Daniel Farrens, who had written Halloween 4, not the version you saw, that was the bullshit version that was recut by the studio, called me up one night and said, do you know this book, The Girl Next Door? And I said, yes. And he said, is it any good? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, I hear it's like this really intense thing, and the word I'm getting from the suits in Hollywood is that they're really looking for something that's going to have the same impact as The Exorcist. And I said, yes, what, maybe, what are you thinking? And he said, well, have you read it? And I said, yes. And he said, is it any good? And I said, yes, it's an amazing book. And then he said, do you think it would make a great movie? And I think I probably paused for about 10 seconds and went, I don't know about that. And then I started laughing. And he's like, why are you laughing? And I said, Dan, I wrote an afterword to this book. Do you have any idea what you're talking about? And he's like, no, what is it? I mean, it's just like, it's really intense, right? And I said, yes. And then he said, do you think it would make a great movie again? And I said, I don't know. What are you thinking of? Anyway, cut a long story short, Dan said, do you think there's any chance we could get the rights to this? And that's when I really completely fell apart laughing, because Jack Ketchum, a.k.a. Dallas Mayer, is one of my best friends and actually read a Shakespeare sonnet at my wedding. And, my groomsmen were like a who's who of horror authors. And Anyway, so cut long story short, I got a copy of the manuscript over to Dan, and he read it in 2 days. Came back to me and said, "Oh my God, this book is like amazing. You've got to turn this into a script." And I'm like, "Oh God, do we have to?" So, in answer to your question, I lived with that bloody book. I had to reread it another 4 times, and it took us 6 months of laborious work to do an incredibly faithful adaptation, which is actually one of the finest pieces of screenwriting I've ever done. But it was incredibly painful dealing on a day-to-day basis with that material. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah. I imagine I had kind of the same feeling that it's probably not so much a labor of love working on material like that. It's grinding, hard work, having to get in the mindset of all this insanity and brutality.
Look, I can't even watch my own fucking movie anymore. You know, I've had to watch it 9 times with audiences. I spent years living in that basement with Meg being tortured. And, you know, the only way I could justify that is the fact that, A, the book was based on one of the perhaps most terrible true crimes committed in the annals of child abuse in this country. And I really don't want to go back to that basement ever again. I can't ever read that book again. I can't even read my afterword.
I truly cannot blame you that I've read the book once and I've seen the film once, and goddamn, I can't speak correctly. Jack Ketchum is one of the most beautiful American writers that we have right now in our time, and it's a wonderfully written book. You know, I don't mean to say anything negative toward Jack Ketchum. I think he's an amazing writer, an amazing person. But the book is one of the most difficult things I've ever sat through to attempt to read. And then seeing the film, usually when you see a movie based on a book, you don't expect it to be as hard, as honest, as truthful as the honest writing from a novel was. But the film translation for The Girl Next Door is utterly difficult to sit through. It's hurtful. It's a very painful film to watch. And I truly can't say I enjoyed watching the movie, having read the book, then seeing it again, you know, with an honest visual. But if for one, you can give amazing credit for your writing and for the directing and for how the film was done. But regardless, it's such a shocking and utterly sad, horrific story. It's kind of hard to translate that to honest words.
Let me interject.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were going to say something?
No, go ahead, man.
Okay, now credit where credit's due. I would not have even attempted to do a script of that were it not for the passion and enthusiasm and the vision of my co-writing and co-associate producing partner, Dan Farrens. Dan is an amazingly talented guy who has incredibly good taste, and he really pushed me hard on this, and I really dragged my heels because I really didn't want to adapt this. I couldn't. It pisses me off when people say, "Oh, it's your script, Phil." No, it's mine and Dan's script. I couldn't have written that script without him, but also we couldn't have written that script without the full-fledged approval and, truthfully, skepticism of Dallas Mayor Jack Ketchum, because Dallas gave us a free option and gave us 6 months to adapt the thing. Because after we turned the script in, he finally admitted to me after I gobsmacked him and said, "Phil, this is a beautiful adaptation. I didn't think anybody would ever adapt my material the way that you guys did." And then there was a pause, and he said, "I honestly didn't believe anybody could do this. So you guys run with it." It took us 7 years to get that movie made. I never thought that film would ever get made. In fact, there were times when I thought this movie shouldn't be made. And yes, we did luck out. Greg, the director, did a fabulous job. The only area of default, of dismay, that Dan and Dallas and I have, and I actually seem to be the one who has the less dismay about this, is the fact that our producers, who were absolutely wonderful, change the ending and didn't tell us. Because if you've read the book, you know that certain events happen at the end of the book, which in the film is basically dismissed within 30 seconds with somebody smashing somebody over the head with a crutch.
You're more than welcome to give the ending forward.
Well, no, I don't believe in spoilers, and what we have.
I'm
to
just letting you know
here,
you can if you'd like to.
What we have to acknowledge here is, and this was recently brought to my attention, and I don't know if you guys know this, but we have over 2,000 reviews on Netflix and a 5-star rating. Can you honestly think of any other book or movie that's on Amazon or Netflix that has that many reviews?
Well, you know, one thing that bothers me about that is there are a lot of horror fans and a lot of people that love the genre, but that watch films like The Girl Next Door and a couple I'm not going to name, but watch and enjoy these films because they claim it helps them deal with their demons or their lives. And there's people that enjoy and watch films like that and don't see the warning that's put in this film that The Girl Next Door, regardless of the book or the movie, is a warning of the atrocities and the disgusting things that happened in reality. But some people really just fucking get off watching it. And those people make the horror genre and people that enjoy horror just look like rapists and murderers and pigs. And that's a very disgusting, very sad fact that has to be realized.
Well, no, I'm going to agree with you on that, and that's one of the things that I do abhor about this generation, what I call the Fangoria generation, who think that gore and splatter is what horror is all about. Okay, horror is an emotion. It's not a thing. It's not a genre. It's not a type. It's not the amount of blood that you spill on the screen. But the bottom line is, I only agreed with Dan to do the project if we could retain the integrity of the original novel, which is a cautionary tale. Now, I'm going to disagree with you on that point in regard to all the reviews that we've got on Netflix, because I actually spent 2 days wading through all of them. The typical example is, this is not a movie I can recommend to people. It's not your typical horror movie. In fact, it's not even a horror movie. It goes beyond a horror movie. This film, God bless it, Buddha bless it, Satan bless it, choose your deity, has changed people's lives and has proved to me the true power of cinema. Let me give you an example. We had the film screened. It was picked for over 24 festivals around the world. I went to the screening at the Fantastic Fest in Austin, Texas, at the legendary Alamo Draft House. And I couldn't sit through the whole film, so I'm outside smoking a cigarette. And after the film is over, I had 3 people come up to me in a row, say, excuse me, Mr. Nutman, you're one of the writers of the film. And I said, yes. And I'm thinking, oh, God, I'm going to get beaten up for this. And they're like, thank you. And I'm like, why are you thanking me? Well, there's a lot of abuse in my family, and this film has just now given me the courage to speak up about the abuse in my family. I have to stop it. And I tell you this, guys, when I got on the plane going home from Austin, I was so overwhelmed by the people that had talked to me about how the film had changed their lives, and that it was going to act as a detonating point for them to change the lives of their families and to go stand up and be advocates for members of their family who were being abused. But quite frankly, I burst into tears as soon as I got on the plane, and the stewardess came up to me and said, are you all right? Can I help you? I said, could you bring me a box of Kleenex, please? I get on average, 5, 6 pieces of, I don't hate the word fan, letters from faithful viewers and readers who continuously say to me that the film has made a huge difference to their life. And this, as I said earlier, confirms in my mind, and this is what I had, the experience I had when I saw If and Oh Lucky Man, and even to a certain degree A Clockwork Orange, and a number of other films. And on a seemingly more trivial note, I can list, Zulu, Kelly's Heroes, and Diamonds Are Forever, which was my first James Bond movie when I was 7 years old back in 1971. It's not the best, but it's my favourite and always will be. And I would always love Jill St. John running around in that stupid bikini. Probably why I'm married to a redhead. But anyway, we should never underestimate the power of cinema to transform people's lives.
Well, Phil, on the last note, we have 10 minutes left. We have a question finally from Andre, and I wanted to get you to answer this beforehand. He wants to know what silent films you recommend him to see, and I felt that he definitely should get this question answered.
He should what? Sorry, he should watch what?
What silent films do you recommend him to find out and see?
Oh, silent films?
Yes, the silent films.
Well, okay. Andre, if you're listening, definitely check out the original Nosferatu by Murnau. D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation and Intolerance. Intolerance especially, which I got a Super 8 copy of when I was a teenager and projected on the wall of my bedroom. And, it's 4.5 hours, and it's rather turgid, but it's worth watching. I'll send you a list. In fact, that reminds me, Andre had sent me a list about horror movies that he wanted me to recommend. So let me quickly throw off 10 horror movies that I think people should watch. If you pick up issue 300 of Fangoria, which is out on stands now, Deathline, a.k.a. Raw Meat, by Gary Sherman, from 1972, British movie, wonderful movie about cannibals on the London subway system, which has an incredible performance by Donald Pleasance. So
Mind the Doors.
Excuse me?
Mind the Doors.
Mind the Doors is our favorite quote from that film.
Mind the Gap and Mind the Doors. It all depends on which station you're in. But anyway, yes.
Personally, that's my favorite Donald Pleasance film of all time. His performance is just absolutely amazing in that film.
Well,
yes,
I knew I was in good company tonight.
I told you, man. You were in great company with us.
Oh yeah, he's just so.
Well, I'm feeling
quite so funny.
Anyway, so yes, Deathline, aka Raw Meat. Obviously, The Curse of Frankenstein with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. The first colour hammer horror film from 1957, and Horror of Dracula. Those should be watched on a double bill together, always. The original Romero Dawn of the Dead from 1978 is mandatory. Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original from 1974, absolute required viewing. Jacques Tournier's Night of the Demon, a.k.a. Curse of the Demon. Now let me think about other silent films for a moment and take a break from horror films.
Well, if I may interrupt you, Metropolis is definitely one that could be thrown in there.
Yes, no, Metropolis is absolutely mandatory, yes, and you're very welcome to shut up the rambling Brit here.
The Bicycle Thief, I always thought is a fairly mandatory film to watch.
Yes, absolutely. The Bicycle Thief by, what's that, De Sica? Hello?
Hello, yes. I don't remember.
That's all on you there, buddy.
Jean Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast from 1939. Absolutely required viewing. Coming back to horror movies, George Banju's Eyes Without a Face,
You've got to toss in freaks into that mixture.
I'm sorry, say what?
You've got to toss in freaks into that mixture.
Yes, but let me just remind people that Eyes Without a Face and Beauty and the Beast, La Belle et la Bête, available in beautiful editions from Criterion. Again, bringing us back to Atlanta-based filmmaker Brett Wood, who has worked with what was Kino on film, Kino on video, Kino whatever the fuck they're called these days. Brett is one of their primary archivists, and if not the premier archivist. And you know, as far as silent stuff is concerned, Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd. Pretty much all of that stuff is available from Kino and is absolutely essential viewing. And now I shall shut up. So since we're getting down to, about 5 minutes?
We're on the 5-minute mark.
Let's do this. Fire me 5 questions in 5 minutes. Have we got any other callers or anybody else sending any emails in?
Well, I have a few more callers. More 616 numbers, so we'll see. Caller, you're on the air.
Come on, take them in.
Am I on?
Yes, you're on.
Hello there. Is that my friend Philip Nutman?
Oh, is that J.D. Strickland?
Hello, Philip. How are you doing? Yes, this is J.D. Strickland here.
Oh, it's my favorite skeleton author, who happens to be a skeleton.
It's my favorite Fangoria guy.
Well, I hope I'm a bit more than your favorite Fangoria guy, J.D.
My favorite fan, my friend. Oh, and I'm just...
Okay.
I'm amazed at all the information that I'm learning tonight about everything. Your knowledge is beyond me, sir.
Gentlemen, do you realize that we have a unique opportunity here? Because this is the first time that I believe that J.D. Strickland has ever been on internet radio.
Wait, I'm on internet radio?
Yes.
Wow, I was just trying to order
on
pizza.
Death by DVD.
Of course, I can't actually show, we can't, because it's on the radio, JD, we can't actually have you show your Stanley Kubrick impersonation, which, of course, makes me just laugh. But I do want you to know...
classic anyway. I'm so glad you love that one, Phil. I've been working on that one for years. Man, I tell you.
I do. This is like an in-joke, guys. So
it was so hard to get it just right.
JD, I want you to know that I've lost all my other earrings, so the only earring I have is my J.D. Strickland laughing skull earring hanging from my left earlobe.
Hey, wait a minute. We market those?
So, can we admit on the air that I've actually been sleeping with you?
You said you'd never bring that up.
I mean, I don't want anybody to think that anything untoward is going on between the two of us, but...
Oh, absolutely not. If anything's going on with anybody, it's between that Jacob and Ryan. I tell you, those two just can't get enough of each other. But it's cute in a way.
Ladies and gentlemen, in case you wonder what the fuck is going on here, this is my favorite skeleton and the guys from Collective Studios, who are the most talented sons of bitches. Well, actually, no disrespect to your mums and dads. But sons of a gun. There's obviously something very funny in the drinking water in both Grand Rapids, Michigan, and also...
can't get enough of this stuff. It's great. Natural spring water.
JD, what was that?
Oh, I love the water here, man. Drink enough of it back, and boy, oh boy, you get inspiration like you would not believe. It's brilliant. How do you think I keep writing all these novels?
Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you. Well, if you wonder what
I'm working on one right now
here,
called "Don't Drink the Marrow."
Don't what?
Don't Drink the Marrow. It's a similar story, kind of autobiographical about my last Saturday night, actually. Let you know, live and learn.
Okay, JD, can I have a moment here and just explain?
Absolutely, Phil.
We're coming up on the end of the show. Just so that everybody knows, these wacky guys called Ryan Lesky, Rick Reed, Jacob De La Rosa, with the assistance of a young gentleman by the name of Stephen Gray.
That guy's an asshole.
What?
Oh, nothing. Keep going.
What? He's an asshole. I thought that was. Well, actually, you just think all the Collective Studios guys are assholes, don't you?
Oh, they're a bunch of lovable dipshits. It's great to watch them work.
Anyway, Collective Studios have made a number of wonderful movies. In fact, Rick Reed just got an award for something called Dolman, which he won't actually ever fucking send me a copy of, the wanker.
Congratulations to the Dolman.
Sorry, hang on a minute. Sorry, I'm getting it wrong. Ryan's the wanker. Rick is the tosser. But anyway, they've also made wonderful movies, incredible films. If you go to YouTube, you can find them. Frisky Whiskey.
That's a classic.
Rick Reed getting chewed to death by a rabid, whatever you call it, Wolverine.
Oh, he's a Wolverine. He's right here. Hey, come here, Wolverine. Come here.
Oh, God.
We're utterly and totally out of time. So,
okay,
I think
on that note, go look up Collective Studios, go Google Clean Break, look at the trailer. Dan Felicki made an amazing movie called GR30K. I always have a problem with that, which is an insanely animated epic, science fiction epic, post-apocalyptic, misusing the word, post-Armageddon thing, and you have to check out my friend J.D. Strickland, who has just completely befuddled me. So, gentlemen, you need to tell me to
come on,
piss
you
off now.
know you love it. I have to say, I just finished reading the Little Shop of Horrors edition number 20, and it is brilliant. Keep up the great work, my friend. I love it. Love to read your reviews. And
JD,
I love your input.
JD, I love you, man. And don't forget to scrub out your eyeball sockets when you go to bed tonight.
Oh, that's the first thing, my friend. Always scrub out the eyeball sockets. BFFs forever, Phil. Bye-bye.
Well, next to eyeball socket scrubbing, before we finally leave tonight and finish the show, we do have a special song we're going to play for Phil.
Okay.
Remember that one to play.
We will be playing that song. With that, I think we have Chris Gilpin coming in next week for an interview. And with that, the ashtray is full. And Hank?
The bottle is fully empty. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And, Mr. Nutman, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for doing this tonight with us.
Please don't call me Mr. Nutman. That always
you
makes
know, I had to call you Mr. Nutman. I had to do it. I had to do it at least once.
Gentlemen, may I say, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And if you ever actually decide you want me back on the show, I'll be very happy to come. But thank you so much. This has been...
In your immediate future, we're going to have you back. This was the best show we've ever recorded. This was wonderful.
Now I'm really embarrassed. Okay, gentlemen, thank you. Good night. God bless. And I'm waiting for the song.
The song's for you, Phil.
Here we go. It's for you. Yeah, what the hell?
Diamonds are forever. They are all I need to please me. They can stimulate and tease me. They won't leave in the night. I've no fear that they might hurt me. Diamonds are forever. Hold one up and then caress it. Touch it, stroke it, and then